What if Los Angeles, California was a Pokemon region? Over the past few months, I've been answering this question with my Fakemon region, Alaya. So I've merged all the videos on the region into one so you can experience the entire region in one place. Enjoy! Welcome to the Alaya region, a Pokemon region based on Los Angeles, California, where the conceptual games Pokemon Lapis and Pokemon Garnet would take place. Alaya has plenty of sights and Pokemon to see, so let's not waste any time and introduce the starters. So here we have Hamini, Hotart, and Vixie. Once again, I'm going to challenge you all to guess the final type combinations for these starters before seeing the final stages, and then edit the comment when you find them out. And no cheating by skipping to the end. Like before, I'll be hearting comments for the first few hours that this video goes live, so get those comments in and make sure to watch the whole video. And don't worry, I know some of you are thinking, where's the California brown bear or the California condor? But trust me, those Pokemon are present in this region, and they have a big presence. So where you would start your journey in Alaya depends on if you chose Lapis or Garnet. Sorry to the Steven Universe fans who are currently frothing at the mouth at that naming scheme. Either way, you would meet Professor Redwood to receive your starter, with him having the giant-like stature of the trees he's named after. So, let's begin how almost every Pokedex begins, with the grass starter, Hamini, the grass hummingbird Pokemon, a grass flying type, that I worked with Fungus to create, along with the rest of the starters in this video, so make sure to check out his link in the description. Also, check out Jumpluff Music, who did the music for Devar, Ensum, and now Alaya. Their link is also in the description. Hamini would make for our first ever hummingbird Pokemon at this point, and I can hear you shouting, Cutiefly! All the way down in the comments, but Cutiefly is based on a bee fly, not a hummingbird. There are tons of different species of hummingbirds in California, but Hamini is based on the broad-tailed hummingbird. With it having this green, white, and magenta plumage, combined with the fact that hummingbirds are pollinators, I thought it would make an excellent basis for a grass starter. Hamini is a pollinator as well, zipping over the many flowers across Alaya. It will build up pollen within its feathers, and the unique chemicals within its plumage can transform them into a powder, which it can later release that can paralyze or put to sleep those that interact with it. This powder is mostly used to help it escape from potential predators, as any that grab Hamini will suffer the powder's effects on contact. This dex entry manifests in its new move, Pause Powder, which is basically a fusion of Stun Spore and Sleep Powder, but with slightly better accuracy. It would have a 50-50 shot of causing either effect, which is the trade-off. Better accuracy, but you don't know what effect you're getting when you use it. And if you paralyze it first, you can no longer use the move on that target, as it will give you the blank is already paralyzed message. This is basically the ability Effect Spore as a Pokemon move, minus the poison. We could even give Hamini Effect Spore as a hidden ability, though I feel that might be a bit overkill on the whole pollen theme. And I would like you to overkill those like and subscribe buttons, so my content can become a theme in your watch history. So go do that now. I'll wait. Go ahead, it's right down there. Now let's talk about our fire starter, Hotart, the tiny shell Pokemon, a pure fire type. Somebody get that skeleton kit on the line because Hotart would give us a full type trio of Testodyne starters. Hotart's category is a nod to this, as Squirtle is the tiny turtle Pokemon, and Turtwig is the tiny leaf Pokemon. The specific tortoise Hotart is based on is the desert tortoise, which is native to the Mojave and Sonoran deserts of the southwestern United States, both of which can be found in California. By now, you may have noticed I've incorporated things that are just generally from California rather than specifically the LA area. Well, that's because Alaya is similar to Unova in that the map is based on the city, but it takes from the surrounding area. In this case, Alaya itself is based on LA, but takes from the whole of California, the West Coast, and some neighboring states. You can see this most clearly on the map, with the Redwood and Sequoia National Parks being referenced towards the middle of the map, Joshua Tree on the east side, and California Wine Country on the west side of the map. Also, to explain the name of the region, it comes from the word playa, which means beach in Spanish. Shout out to my LAtinos watching. It also has the word play in there, as LA is certainly known as a party city, which is why it's pronounced that way. And the beginning is the acronym LA backwards. Plus, when you put it all together, it sounds like you're saying LA in a Valley Girl accent. You should totes go to Alaya. Trust, you'll love it. Also, with the Pokemon World Championships taking place in Anaheim this year, I figured what better time to make a region based on the greater LA area. Anyway, enough region design and Valley Girl accents. Let's get back to Hotart. This cutie is actually also based on a kind of turtle, the painted turtle, giving you the full Testodyne experience here. This turtle is more so found in the northern half of the US, unlike the desert tortoise. Hotart takes the painted part a bit more literally, as each one has a unique painting-like flame on their shell. This mark is given by Hotart's parents, using their searing flame to decorate their child's shell, which continues to burn for the time they're a Hotart. These act as a way to identify them, being a stand-in for its name. And don't worry, this doesn't hurt them because 1, it's a fire type and therefore resists it, and for 2, unlike real turtles, Hoturt don't have pain receptors in their shell. It's actually quite the opposite, as this painting almost acts like a protective sigil on the Pokemon, warding off any that would try to attack the baby Hoturt. This is how this Pokemon presents its hidden ability, Flame Body. Though I wanted to give it the ability Magma Armor because the name fits the design so well, the effect just doesn't match the concept. And we have a concept for our water starter, Vixie, that doesn't feel like it matches up, but trust me, it will make sense here in a bit. Vixie is known as the Sea Fox Pokemon, and is a pure water type. It is based on Kit Foxes, which are some of the smallest Vulpines in the world, referred to as the North American equivalent to the Fennec Fox, which given Fennekin is a fire type from a European-based region, and Vixie is a water type from an America-based region, it makes for a good parallel. Vixie is seen as a bit of a trickster, though it's just misunderstood. It likes to play pretend, with the species tending to have a wilder imagination than most. Vixie will play in the water, using their water-type moves to guide and show off what they're imagining. Not every Pokemon or trainer can pick up on that though, leading to them thinking they are being tricked into being splashed at best, and into a battle at worst. Vixie would most definitely learn the moves Trick Room and Trick at some point, which only makes people more confused as to its true motives. Maybe one day people will understand it. And that might not take too long, as at level 16, Vixie evolves into Lake Coyote, the Sea Coyote Pokemon, a water psychic type. Lake Coyote have a bit more of a flair for the dramatic than their base stage, able to better articulate their imagination with their actions and psychic powers. Lake Coyote make for excellent partner Pokemon in movies, which are filmed here at the home base of Pokestar Studios, Pokestar Hills, where most famous actors across Alaya and even some from Unova live. Lake Coyote are able to match the energy of their scene partner nearly perfectly every single time. This is thanks to its hidden ability, Co-Star. Which, can I just say, the fact that that's Flamigo's signature ability makes zero sense to me. Ah yes, the lawn flamingo that's also a boxing glove gets the acting-inspired ability. Anyway, I do think it could have Co-Star, or a new hidden ability which I thought could be called either Actor or Yes And, which basically works the same as Co-Star, but instead of copying an ally's stat changes, it copies the opponent's. The name Yes And comes from the very classic improv philosophy where you accept what someone says in a scene and then add to it, which copying the enemy's stats on entry would certainly contribute something new to the battle. Would this be super broken? Maybe. Do I care? No. From there, let's evolve Hoturt, which at level 16 becomes Flarapace, the Molten Shell Pokemon, a fire rock type. Yes, it's quad weak to water. Please be nice to it in the comments. Please and thank you. This torrid tortoise is as jovial as it can be. It expresses this joy by using the lava held within its back to make different kinds of artwork, such as drawings of pure flame or sculptures made of cooled magmatic rock. You can find these works momentarily in the desert to the east of the map, known as the Dancing Dunes, with the winds and earthquakes of the area causing the sands to shift frequently, which also destroys Flarapace's creations. Though it doesn't matter to it, as true art is fleeting, right? Anyway, Flarapace's shell has multiple uses, as it can also be used to smelt different ores to make metal, acting like a mix between a volcano, a kiln, and a blast furnace. This is actually where its signature move, Furnace Blast, comes from. This is a base 70 fire-type special attack where fire erupts from Flarapace's shell towards the target. This move is super effective against ground and rock types, and is quad effective against steel types, referring to the melting of ores into metal like I said before, and how kilns are used in ceramics, which both rock and ground types have featured as design inspirations before. Now, back to our grass starter Hamini, who at level 16 evolves into Hamoter, the grass generator Pokemon, a grass electric type. Y'all know how much I like making Pokemon with interesting type combos. We still don't have a wholly original Pokemon that has been the grass electric type combo, with a Rotom form and a regional form for Voltorb being our only representation for it at this point. So who better to be the first one than a starter Pokemon? Also, once again, I can hear you down in the comments. Yes, the types for this trio of starter don't make a complete secondary type triangle, but there have been multiple instances of starter Pokemon having secondary types that don't interact with the other starters, and having to make starter Pokemon that fit within those parameters is extremely limiting. I mean, I truly despise the idea of making starters whose secondary types just shuffle between the Psychic, Dark, Fighting, Fairy, and Ghost types around over and over again, and I'm sure Game Freak does too. Tangent aside, Hamoter generates large amounts of electricity from the beating of its wings, which beat incredibly fast just like a hummingbird in real life. Motors are also known to give off a humming sound which lines up well. Hamoter stores electricity in these little spots in its armpits, or should I say wing pits. Anyway, it's just like how Pikachu stores it in its cheeks. If its stores are full, it will give off a loud hum. It can release this energy using Toxtricity's signature move, Overdrive. Homoder adds in a new hummingbird as an inspiration with the Calliope hummingbird. Males of the species have this more bright purple plumage that sticks out when it's resting, the shape of which has this spiky, jagged look that made me think of electricity. Upon evolution, I think its hidden ability could change from Effect Spore to a new ability that I've named Pollinate, which turns all normal-type moves into the grass-type. I know this doesn't exactly expand its electric-type move pool, but to replace that, it would naturally learn many electric-type moves and would have many available via TM. Let's stay with this line. So at level 36, Homoder evolves into Humminbard, the Grass Bard Pokemon. With a name and a category like that, of course this Pokemon is another entry into the list of musician starter Pokemon, which makes a complete type trio with Skeledirge and Primarina. But rather than being inspired by classic music like mariachi, fado, and opera, Humminbard is inspired by more pop, rock, and electronic music. Being inspired by pop and rock stars with a dramatic fashion sense, like Billie Eilish, Chappell Roan, and Lady Gaga. Basically all queer icons. You can see it even has a little part of its body that looks like a stage mic. This is not only meant to be a literal hummingbird, but also comes from the Calliope hummingbird, with Calliope being the Greek muse of poetry, known for her eloquence and beautiful voice, which is actually what the name Calliope means, beautiful voice. It is also a kind of musical instrument that is a form of steam whistle organ originating from America. If you are familiar with old-timey circuses, carousels, or steamboats, then you've probably heard a Calliope playing before. Calliopes are famously very loud, being able to be heard miles away, which acts as an inverse to hummingbirds, which are incredibly quiet despite their rapid wing beats, and can also work as a reference to live concerts, with modern ones basically requiring earplugs to stand in the front row. The entire Humminbard line has music themes within their design. Hummini is meant to reflect more classic music composers, with its plumage looking like a frilly shirt or cravat and tailcoat. And Homoder is meant to reference flamboyantly dressed classic rock icons like Elvis, Kiss, and David Bowie as Ziggy Stardust. Moving back to our Firestarter line, Flarepace at level 36 evolves into Bohistia, the Hearth Shell Pokemon. This Pokemon's shell acts as a meeting point for many different kinds of Pokemon looking for warmth on those cold desert nights. Bohistia absolutely welcomes the company, exuding warmth not only from its shell, but its personality as well, keeping its artistic flair, pun intended, from its previous stages. It creates communities of its previous stages and other like-minded creative Pokemon around itself. This leads me into its name. Let's start with the end of its name, coming from Hestia, the Greek goddess of the hearth, home, sacred and sacrificial fire. The first part of its name comes from Bohemia or Bohemian, which is a community of artists that typically go against the status quo. That sacrificial fire, Bohemia, and the shape of Bohistia's shell becomes one giant reference to the famous yearly festival known as Burning Man, a temporary collective of artists that come together to create art and music for a week in the middle of the Black Rock Desert in Nevada, ending it all by burning down an enormous effigy of a person. Though it's held in Nevada, it very much originates from California, with the first Burning Man happening on Baker Beach near San Francisco. Bohistia's shell is inspired by the Temple, another thing that is burned at the ending of Burning Man and is seen as just as important. This shell is specifically inspired by the Temple of the Heart from 2023's Burning Man, with the inside of the shell reflecting both the lighting from within the temple and its burning. As I'm sure you've noticed, this entire line reflects different mediums of visual art: painting, ceramics, and sculpture. I tried very hard to separate this from the other fire turtles, Torkoal and Turtonator, and I feel as though with this theme I managed to do that. Okay, so on to the final stage for our water starter. So at level 36, Lake Coyote evolves into Whirlwolf, the Sea Wolf Pokemon. Okay, so finally I can explain this Pokemon's origin. While usually water starters are some form of semi-aquatic animal, and foxes, coyotes, and wolves don't really fit that criteria, there is a type of canine from indigenous mythology in the Pacific Northwest area called a Gonocadet, also known as the sea wolf. I tried my best with that name. There is no pronunciation guide on the internet that I can find. If you're familiar with Loxton's Cascade region, you've probably heard of this creature before. But this creature is said to have the head of a wolf and the body of a sea creature, and is where Whirlwolf's category comes from, which if you think about it, kinda sounds like the description of a sea lion, which their young are also called pups, just like wolves. There is another wolf-sea creature hybrid also from indigenous mythology called the Auklut, which is like a hybrid between an orca and a wolf. This line's coloration is inspired by the Auklut, being darker blue rather than black. Its bipedal and more humanoid shape that has become more typical with starter Pokemon as of late, combined with its name, becomes a reference to werewolves. And the Vancouver Coastal Seawolf also exists, which this line and the wharf part of its name refers to. Whirlwolf in its final stage has become emblematic of what many thought its base stage was, a trickster, using its psychic powers to make fools of people and Pokemon that dare contend with it. It hauls its massive tail over its shoulder when it walks on land, but it greatly assists it when swimming, making massive whirlpools in the water behind it. Okay, so that's cool and all, but why is it wearing a pinstripe suit? Well, that's where this line's secondary theme comes in. This entire line is based on acting. There are layers here, so stay with me. This line refers to the phrase, a wolf in sheep's clothing, pretending to be something you're not. Which, like, is that not one of the main aspects of acting? I mean, except if you're Seth Rogen or Jeff Goldblum. Those dudes play themselves in nearly every role. Not saying that's a bad thing, it's just true. Anyway, Vixie is meant to emulate the young, aspiring actor, full of hopes, dreams, and imagination. Lake Coyote is the actor who made it, and has found their spotlight. Then finally, Whirlwolf is the jaded actor who fell off after years in the public eye, not being able to land the same roles they could when they were younger. A real curmudgeon-y vibe. With it being a mix between a sea creature and a wolf, you could also say it's a wolf acting like a semi-aquatic animal, a wolf in Orca's clothing. It also has literal clothing. Which leads me into the group theme for these starters. They are all based on different art forms. Whirlwolf represents acting, as I just said, Bohesia represents visual art, and Hummingbird represents music. Los Angeles is one of the most artistic cities in the country, so I thought this as a theme made the most sense. But you guys know me, do I ever just make one theme and call it quits? So these final stages are also inspired by different California cryptids. Hummingbird is inspired by the roperite, a bird-like creature with a long, rope-like beak used to capture prey, which hummingbirds are also known for their incredibly long, rope-like tongues that wrap around the inside of their head. Bohesia is inspired by the funeral mountain Terrashot, a creature with an oddly casket-shaped shell that traverses through the desert in great numbers, with the temple that Bohesia's shell is inspired by acting like a metaphorical casket for Burning Man and people traveling through the desert to get to it, and has Terra in its name. Whirlwolf already has a mythological inspiration, but I layered in the Diablo Fishman. This cryptid is said to have a creature from the Black Lagoon as skull face, a radioactive hand, a hazmat suit with a missing mask with seaweed draped over its shoulders, and a blue fishing net around its shoulders as well. So you have the tail of Whirlwolf acting like the seaweed and blue fishing net, it having its own suit, like fur, and the radioactive hand mirroring Whirlwolf's psychic powers, giving us a Jedi mind trick kind of vibe. This Pokemon is a part man, part fish, part wolf, which truly sounds like the basis for an old Hollywood monster movie. Let me know which starter you would pick on your journey through the Alaya region. And a huge shout out to our amazing members who go that extra mile to support the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. What if there were Pokemon based on Los Angeles, California? Well, I've taken to creating some for my Pokemon region, Alaya. Hey everyone, Brandon here. We've already discussed what the starter Pokemon would look like. Go check that out if you missed it. So now let's talk about some Pokemon you would find around Alaya. So first up we have the early root mammal. And in Alaya that title belongs to Avogado, the seed cat Pokemon, a normal grass type. This might go on record as the goofiest little guy I've ever made on this channel. I worked with Fungusmon for this design and the next few, so make sure to check out their link in the description. The idea of this Pokemon was born out of me wanting to create an avocado Pokemon for this region, as Los Angeles and California at large are known for their avocado consumption, with Haas avocados originating from Rudolf Haas, a mail carrier and horticulturist from La Habra, California, which is part of the greater LA area. These avocados were first made in 1926 and now are one of the most commercially popular worldwide. Avocado's name comes from avocado and gato, the Spanish word for cat. But avocado is actually the original English rendering of the Spanish word aguacate, which in and of itself comes from the Nahuatl word ahuacatl, which means testicle. That was quite the non sequitur. Either way, there is precedent for the name. Its name being Spanish in origin refers to how most avocados are grown in the Mesoamerica area. Its category of the seed cat Pokemon also refers to cat seed, which grows cat grass, a kind of grass that is safe for cats to consume, such as wheatgrass, oatgrass, and barley grass. Okay, aside from the name, why would I fuse an avocado and a cat? Well, that will become very apparent when Avocado evolves at level 20 into Toast Tabby, the Toast Cat Pokemon. This Pokemon is based on the dish that began sweeping the nation in 2010 and is apparently the reason we can't afford rent, avocado toast. It is disputed where avocado toast originates, but it's said that people in the San Francisco Bay Area have been eating it since the late 1800s. Toastabby's pose is emulating one that cats take, which is known as loafing, in which a cat tucks its arms and legs underneath itself, making it look like a loaf of bread. The crust of the toast is actually Toastabby's tail wrapping around itself. It also has these flecks of white amongst its fur, which refer to the salt and other spices put atop avocado toast, but can also refer to cat dander, as many people, myself included unfortunately, are allergic to. According to the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America, this affects between 15 to 30% of the American population, and less than 10% have an allergy to avocados. Toastabby's dander could act as the basis for it knowing different powder moves, such as sleep powder, poison powder, etc. With Toastabby being based on toast, a heated form of bread, its ability would of course be well-baked body, like Darkspawn. with Tostabi being the cat to its dog. Now I guess we just need a baked bread mouse and we can have ourselves a full Tom and Jerry reunion. And I would like you to reunite with those like and subscribe buttons. Also, make sure to leave a comment down below letting me know which Pokemon in this video was your favorite. Next, we have ourselves the early root bird with Fast Tilt, the long leg Pokemon, a pure flying type. This little guy is based on the black-necked stilt, a long-legged bird that can be found in the wetlands and beaches across much of the southern half of North America and much of South America. They use these long legs to wade in the water, hunting the wildlife found within it. They can also run pretty fast with said legs, even in the water. Faststilt use their legs in a similar fashion, able to walk through water to prey on small water or bug types found within it. Hilariously enough, Faststilt shares its category with Ariados, which, as a bird, Faststilt would probably prey on Ariados' pre-evolution Spinarak. I am sure many were expecting a California quail Pokemon to be the early root bird, but in all honesty, when thinking of a concept for one, I felt I couldn't come up with something that was different enough from Loxton's Quailston line. It truly is such a solid concept for the animal, and I felt I wouldn't be adding anything by attempting to make one myself. So make sure to check out Loxton's Cascade region if you haven't. Back to Faststilt though, which at level 24 evolves into Seagrit, the disguised leg Pokemon, a flying grass type. Wait, is it a grass type? No, that's just dark green plumage. It's actually a dark type. Seagrit disguise themselves as an unsuspecting palm tree, letting prey climb up on its lengthy tree trunk-like legs before scooping them up in its large beak. This avant-garde avian is based on a few different types of cranes, herons, or egrets. The great heron, which is the largest and most widespread wading bird across the US, the American bittern, which has this striking plumage to help it blend in with its surroundings, and the great egret, who are able to spread out these special lacy feathers called egrets during mating displays, which to me looked like palm fronds. This, all tied together with its stylish appearance, it refers to trompe l'oeil, meaning deceive the eye in French, a fashion design technique that creates the illusion of three-dimensionality on flat surfaces, using silhouettes, prints, and other elements that play with the viewer's perception, just like Seagrit plays with its prey's perception of it. We have had a palm tree Pokemon and a Pokemon that disguises itself as a tree, but never a fashionable bird Pokemon disguising itself as a palm tree. You would be able to find yourself a Faststilt and Seagrit along the beaches of Alaya, hunting with their individual methods, one direct and the other indirect. And I want you to directly hunt that join button to become a member. Membership gets you amazing perks all the while helping me to continue to create videos just like this one. So hit that join button now and help support the channel. From there, we have the early root bug, and this one is pretty special to me, and I hope it will be for you all too. I'm going to present them all at once to better explain the concept. So allow me to introduce Awkworm, the unsure Pokemon, Eggarb, the egg Pokemon, and Prydromorph, the pride Pokemon. Awkworm starts off as a little worm who doesn't quite know what to do with itself, unsure of its place in the Pokemon world. It will wrap itself in fine hair-like silk, evolving it into Eggarb, slowly growing until eventually it evolves into Prydromorph, more sure of itself and full of pride than ever. Naturally, with this line's coloration and concept, it refers to the trans pride flag and trans folk in general, with butterflies being a form of trans iconography. This line would have no gender, so it isn't binary, leaving it open to your interpretation of what journey it travels along. Awkworm clearly represents a person pre-transition. Eggarb represents that transition, with the term egg being queer slang meaning someone who has yet to realize their true gender or lack thereof. And Prydromorph is a person who is finally living their truth openly and outwardly. In Prydromorph's antenna, you can spy the lowercase lambda symbol, which is an icon of queer activism, being adopted by the Queer Activists Alliance. Prydromorph's name not only comes from pride, but also gynandromorphism, which is when a butterfly exhibits both male and female phenotypes, which is why this Pokemon has two very different wings, showing that intersexuality exists in many different species and is completely normal, which is also the reason this entire line is the bug normal type. Queerness is an absolutely normal thing, and don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. To my queer viewers out there, you are seen and you are loved. I found it important to make this Fakemon, especially in light of recent events, myself being a part of the queer community, and this video coming out on Pride Month. Also, Los Angeles is home to an enormous queer community, with West Hollywood being known for their queer culture. Speaking of, we are raising money this month for the Trevor Project, a non-profit crisis prevention line serving the queer community that does incredibly needed work. Now more than ever, as the national LGBTQ+ crisis hotline was recently shut down. You can donate directly by using the fundraiser attached to this video, or if you want a sticker while also helping support this cause, you can go to my merch store which has two new stickers, the Prydromorph sticker and the Sulfion sticker, repping trans and non-binary pride. Or you could go for a sticker from the Queer Legendary series. All proceeds this month from these stickers are also being donated to the Trevor Project, and I've reduced prices across the store to make it a bit more affordable to support this cause. So please go ahead and either directly donate through this video or pick up a sticker from my store, which the link for it is in the card and the description. So I was thinking of making some fossil Pokemon for this region, and I had the thought, oh, it sure would be interesting if I used the La Brea tar pits to make fossils that were part poison rather than part rock. So I started conceptualizing and landed on a saber-toothed tiger line and a ground sloth line. And it was right about that time that something familiar struck my memory, like I had seen these exact concepts done before. I then realized that my buddy TubsAZ, who I've worked with on the channel before, has done this exact concept for his Mojave region. So I asked and he allowed me to show them off as a sort of, here's what I would have done situation. So make sure to check out his link in the description, as well as the other artists I've worked with in this video. So here we have Kitox, the tar-toothed Pokemon, a pure poison type, and Guncub, the tar sloth Pokemon, a poison ground type. The tar within Kitox's bones gives it a venomous bite. It will strike once, then wait for its prey to succumb to the poison. Guncub's tar-covered body makes it hard to catch and even harder to battle, slipping away from most fights. At level 37, they evolve into Tartaror, the tar fang Pokemon, a poison dark type, and Goliath, the Giga Tar Sloth Pokemon. Tartaro's claws and fangs are so infused with toxic tar that a single cut can make its prey fall incredibly ill immediately. If its venom somehow fails, it will pin down its prey with its fangs, tearing into them with its strong claws. Goliath has extremely sticky tar covering its entire body. Bits of debris, foliage, and smaller Pokemon can often be found stuck in its coat. Due to this tar, it has poor eyesight, using its long, gooey tongue to navigate its surroundings instead. This tar is also a part of Goliath's new signature ability, Tar Trap, where an opponent Pokemon can no longer escape from battle after using a contact move. Take a drink of water each time I said tar when explaining those Pokemon. You look a bit dehydrated. And hydration is key to what this next Fakemon is based on, sports. So here is Passwitch, the ball change Pokemon, a pure water type. But wait, there's more. This is just Passwitch's Laker form. It also has its Dodger and Charger forms as well. I worked with Trainer Rex on this line as well as the next line, so once again, check out their link in the description. This Pokemon is of course a reference to the major sports teams of Los Angeles, the Lakers, the Dodgers, and the Chargers, with each form for Passwitch embodying the type of ball of each sport, a baseball, basketball, and American football. You can even see the symbol for the Chargers in Passwitch's little hair puff. With them all being balls that are passed or thrown, they are most definitely associated with motion. With that said, each of these forms are also based on Newton's laws of motion. Laker form is based on Newton's first law of inertia. While basketball is known for a lot of movement across the court, to shoot the basketball, it's important to plant in one place before shooting. Also, lakes don't typically have much movement within them, being a still body of water surrounded by land, and water is fairly chemically inert when compared to other chemicals. Water basketball is also a sport that exists, which this references. Dodger form is based on Newton's second law of acceleration, with baseballs being known for how fast they are being thrown by the pitcher, and wind becoming more dangerous the faster it blows. Its flying type serves as a reference to fly balls, a term within baseball for a ball that was batted high into the air. Charger form is based on Newton's third law of action and reaction, that states when two bodies interact, they apply forces to one another that are equal in magnitude and opposite in direction. Well, doesn't that sound like the line of scrimmage in football, where the linebackers push into each other with near equal force, trying to push them the opposite direction? Also, electricity is constantly active, and blocks or stops need to be put in place to keep it from flowing. The arms and legs of this Pokemon are inspired by sports team mascots, and classic rubber hose cartoons like Steamboat Willie, with Disney Animation Studios being founded in Burbank, California, and Disneyland being within Anaheim. Passwitch changes into its different forms when thrown out of its Pokeball using different throwing techniques, carrying that mechanic over from the Blueberry Academy DLC in Scarlet and Violet. The techniques would match up to how each type of ball is thrown in the sport they are associated with, which is how it gets its name. It switches depending on how it is passed. Passwitch love to play games together. They will all switch their forms by throwing each other so they can play the same game on equal footing. Their Dodger form is known for its incredible speed, the Laker form for its ability to go with the flow, and its Charger form for its unending want to charge forward. I definitely think Passwitch would get a new move, so let's give it Play Action. A move that is like a combo between Baton Pass and Astonish, where Passwitch will rush the opponent with what they think is a tackle, possibly making them flinch, before immediately returning back to its trainer, giving any stat buffs Passwitch had to the next Pokemon that is sent into battle. This move refers to the football play called a Play Action Pass, where the offense tricks the defense into thinking they're going for a running play, but instead they're actually doing a pass play. This would essentially give you a free switch in with free stat buffs that come along with it. I considered instead of flinching that this move would hit like Volt Switch or Flip Turn, with the type corresponding to Pass Switch's current type, but that felt a bit too OP, where I think the chance to flinch makes it a bit more reasonable. Last but not least, we have the main fish Pokemon of the region, and that would be none other than Geekai, the Brainfish Pokemon, a pure water type. This Pokemon earns its category as the Brainfish Pokemon as it is extremely elusive, not due to its speed, but due to its clever maneuvering. Fishermen gather at the beaches that run across Alaya to see if they can win the battle of wits it takes to catch one of these Pokemon. It has a consistent nonplussed look on its face, as it is very easily bored with those that don't challenge its intellect. Geekai stays in the ocean for a majority of its life, but if it moves into Alaya's rivers, this triggers its evolution into Bulkai, the Brawnfish Pokemon, a water fighting type. This monstrous Pokemon has abandoned all the intellect of its prior stage, acting aggressively toward any that dare trifle with it. There is another group of fishermen that gather in Alaya to try and catch this Pokemon, with it being an impressive feat of strength. There is much debate on which member of this line is harder to catch. Okay, so this line is based on a fish known as the sockeye salmon, which while it is young, it stays in the ocean and maintains this silver and blue coloration and smaller frame. But when it comes time for mating season, they travel into freshwater rivers, where they begin an incredible transformation, gaining a new green and red coloration, hooked jaws, and a hump in its back. This massive transformation reminded me of a couple very famous characters known for their transformations, with the major one being Bruce Banner, who becomes the Incredible Hulk, who were inspired by the tale of Jekyll and Hyde, both of which are incredibly smart individuals who transform into brutish, monstrous creatures. You can see the scales of Geekai are meant to form a lab coat, with its eyebrow pattern reflecting glasses, which then become these ripped, clothing-esque scales on Bulkai, just like how Hulk has those iconic ripped shorts. Naturally, this means Bulkai would get Anger Point as an ability, given Hulk's whole deal is the angrier he gets, the more powerful he is. And I think Geekai could have Technician, as Bruce Banner has made multiple bits of tech across the comics and MCU, or it could have Analytic, referring to Bruce's analytical mind. These two are also inspired by water babies, a creature from the myths of many Western Native American groups, which take the appearance of infants, whose cries are considered an omen of impending disaster. Just like the small-bodied Geekai coming closer to the beaches of Alaya is considered an omen of the impending disaster that is the monstrous Bulkai. So which of these Pokemon was your favorite? Let me know down below. Thank you so much to our fantastic members who go that extra mile to support this channel, which you can also do by hitting that join button. Thank you so very much for watching, and I will see you all next time. What if there were regional forms and new evolutions for Pokemon based on Los Angeles, California? Well, let's see what that might look like in my custom Pokemon region, Alaya. Hey everyone, Brandon here. Los Angeles and California at large have plenty of things to inspire some amazing regional forms and evolutions. So let's start by introducing Alayan Litwick, Lampent, and Chandelure. These are all electric ghost types, and I adopted them from Tubbs AZ, so make sure to check out his link in the description, as well as the other artists featured in this video. They are all based on light bulbs, street lights, and the paranormal flickering of lights. Nosferatu! How this ties into California is Thomas Edison, widely credited as the creator of the incandescent light bulb, began development of said light bulb with a team of researchers in Menlo Park, California. And there is a very famous work of art known as Urban Light, which sits outside of the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, or LACMA, which works as another inspiration for this line. These three can be found within the cities of Alaya. Alayan Litwick will find abandoned buildings to sap whatever power is left. Alayan Lampent will disguise itself as street lamps. If a living thing passes underneath its light, it will absorb a bit of its life force, keeping itself sustained for weeks off the relatively small amount. Alaya and Chandelure will use their bright lights to communicate by flickering. They reside at the end of dark alleyways, leading prey toward the light before sapping their life force. To add to these dex entries, they would have abilities like Volt Absorb and Static, with Infiltrator as a hidden ability. And I would like you to infiltrate our community by hitting that subscribe button. And while you're down there, hit that like button and leave a comment down below about your favorite Pokemon in this video. While we're on the topic of creepy little guys, let's move on to a little ghost type who has been given new life in Alaya. So here is Alayan Phantump, the stump Pokemon, a dark grass type. Given this little guy is no longer a ghost type, having the ghostly lower half didn't quite make sense, so this Phantump is a Dark Child! Sorry to the Marvel Rivals players I just triggered, but Phantump and Alaya evolve a bit differently. So, when given a Leaf Stone, Alayan Phantump evolves into Dreadwood, the Goliath Tree Pokemon, a dark grass type. Yep, I gave this line the old Alolan Exeggutor treatment, except Dreadwood is even taller, coming in at a staggering 50 feet tall. This malevolent giant blends in amongst the Titan Tree forest, using its eye to spy on those traveling within it, following them, unbeknownst to the targets. These two are obviously based on the famous redwood or sequoia trees found in California, but they are also based on a couple other things. Dreadwood is additionally based on the most famous cryptid of all, Bigfoot, who is said to travel within the redwood forests. So this Pokemon has big old root feet rather than the spidery legs of Trevenant. It also uses pine needles to form the illusion of hair, even having a little mustache and beard. And there is another type of California cryptid that these are inspired by, known as the Dark Watchers, a group of entities found within the St. Lucia Mountains. They are described as tall, dark, handsome, sometimes giant-sized, featureless dark silhouettes with white glowing eyes, typically seen at dawn or dusk, motionlessly watching those who travel along the mountain range. A suspected explanation of these creatures is a phenomenon known as a Brocken specter, also called a mountain specter, where a person's shadow can be cast onto a cloud bank around them when the sun is at a certain angle, creating the illusion of a large shadowy humanoid figure. With Alayan Phantomp and Dreadwood being dark-type watchers, who were formerly specters, I thought this was incredibly fitting. Also, there is a deep fog that rolls through many of the forests of California, and in Alaya, which could cause the phenomenon if close enough to the forest's edge. You could cause a phenomenon if you went down and hit that join button, granting yourself amazing benefits like early access to videos, all the while helping me support the artists I work with to create videos just like this. So hit that join button now. That fog we just mentioned actually has a name, and its own Twitter account, Carl the Fog. Carl is a thick mist that often flows through the San Francisco Bay Area, but can be found all throughout the West Coast due to the differing temperatures of the air over the ocean and on land. Carl is a type of advection fog, which moves horizontally, is low-rolling, and is formed when moist, warm air passes over a colder surface and is cooled. So obviously, if a weather phenomena has such prestige, I had to make a regional form inspired by it. So here we have Alayan Torcarl. Alayan Torkoal, the fog Pokemon, a pure water type. This Torkoal produces massive amounts of mists and fog all across Alaya. This fog is warm and soothing, being found to lift the mood of those around it. This dex entry and Torkoal's shell shape refer to essential oil diffusers and aromatherapy, which this Torkoal would definitely learn as a move. Torkoal's original shell shape very much reminded me of the incense item, so I thought switching to a more modern form of aromatherapy would be a natural transition. I think some great abilities for this regional form would either be Lingering Aroma or Cloud9 to replace White Smoke, Drizzle to replace Drought, and it could keep Shell Armor as a hidden ability. I did consider giving it Misty Surge to replace Drought, but seeing as it's a pure water type, Torkoal wouldn't benefit from it very much. But hey, maybe it can be a setup mon for fairy types. Speaking of fairy types, you know which one I've been kind of obsessed with lately? Fido. Within its doughy body lies so much potential for different evolutions. So when Fido is given the Frosty Frosting, it evolves into Domut, the Mutt Pokemon, a fairy ice type. Clearly, based on its name and design, this adorable pupper is based on donuts and mutts, also known as a mixed breed of dog. The enormous donut ears it has serves as a reference to the well-known giant donut that remains atop Randy's Donuts in Inglewood, California. For my MCU fans, it's the one Iron Man used as a lounge chair. These big old ears are putting in double time, because when combined with the little frosted donut-shaped leg warmers, it refers to winter outfits, especially ones for dogs like Chihuahuas, which are especially popular in California, since those little guys are always shaking. You can also see around its collar is a little donut hole, which is like a little bell or dog tag. Its tail is also a little donut hole, which makes sense given the placement, if you catch my meaning. The evolution item also gives away the reason for its typing, being a pun on frosted or iced donuts, with the colorful frosting on this Pokemon looking like snow resting atop a surface. Domut, being a mutt, refers to how in modern times, it has become widely popular to adopt dogs of mixed breeds rather than buying a pure breed from a pet store or breeder, considered to be a more humane option of dog ownership. The mutt aspect also alludes to how there are many different types of donuts, and some of them are even mixes of other types of food, such as the cronut or the mochi nut. I debated on keeping Well-Baked Body as the main ability, due to the fact it would be much stronger for a partial ice type to have it, and the fact that classic donuts are fried rather than baked, though baked donuts still do exist, so I think it fits. But for the fun of it, and to better represent the variety that donuts provide, let's make an adjacent ability that does a similar thing, so its main ability could be Well-Baked Body, or the new ability, Well-Fried Body, which, when hit by a fire-type move, raises this Pokemon's special defense instead of taking damage. And for its hidden ability, we could just keep Aroma Veil, because donuts do be smelling delicious. And you know what else smells delicious and pairs well with donuts for breakfast? Oranges. So here we have Orubi, the orange Pokemon, a grass flying type. This little cutie, pun intended, is a regional fake, aka a convergent version of Cherubi, but based on oranges instead. Oranges are pretty major in California, with there being a town and county named after them, with orange's symbol being an orange. The white part of a ruby is emulating the pith of an orange, and its leaf or branch is meant to emulate a dove, with a dove holding a branch, usually an olive branch, being a religious symbol of hope and peace. As such, a ruby peacefully glides over Alaya on its winged leaves, carrying with it the pleasant scent of citrus. Let's just say it's pretty hard to be pithed off around this Pokemon. At level 25, a ruby evolves into Orim, the orange blossom Pokemon. Due to the sunny weather that Alaya is known for, Orim's natural state is in this open form. It will only turn into its closed form if the weather gets too hot or cold in an attempt to protect the aromatic components within its body. This is a little reversal on how the forms usually work, with the sunny form being up front and the overcast form appearing less often. Honestly, this is the way I feel it should have been with Cherim originally, because look how cute that sunshine form is. Why would you hide that behind a singular weather condition? I mean, I get it's part of its ability, but still. Anyway, Nyctinasty, which is when flowers hide away their petals based on some kind of stimulus, which is the basis of the original line's forms, has also been observed in some flowers due to extreme heat or cold, so it works conceptually. As I hinted at with the religious imagery of a ruby, this line leans more into the cherubim or angelic part of the original line. The city of Orange can be found within the greater Los Angeles area. You know, the city name that literally translates to the Angels. On top of that, there is a railway in LA named Angel's Flight, and it just so happens to be colored orange. Orange blossoms being white in color tied in super well with angels usually being depicted clad in white robes with dove wings. And the anther and filament of Orim's forms is meant to look like a little halo. Open form is more based on a cherubim, while closed form is more based on a seraphim, or what people on the internet refer to as a biblically accurate angel. The aroma that Orim emits fills those around it with joy, hope, and a sense of peace. Its scent is less fervent in its closed form, as it is storing up more of the scent within its petals for when it ultimately blooms again. It has adapted an adorable face on its petals that brings a similar sensation to the aroma for those who view it. Obviously, this line would learn scent-related moves like sweet scent and aromatherapy. Orim would get a new ability to replace Flower Gift, which I have named Thermal Protection, where this Pokemon boosts the defense and special defense of itself and allies while in its closed form. Orim's forms are not triggered by the ability itself, but can be activated by harsh sunlight and snowy weather conditions, or when hit by a fire or ice type move. If the moves are the reason it transforms, it will do neutral damage, but only the first time. If it's hit by those moves afterward, they will do the normal super effective damage. I thought this would be a good way to mitigate two of this Pokemon's main weaknesses without making it completely busted. But you know what is busted? Porygon Z. It's a corrupted computer program created using the dubious disk. Well, technology in Alaya has advanced quite a bit, and the research programs of the College of Alaya, or CA for short, have developed the definitive disk, which when given to Porygon 2 evolves it into Porygon 3, the virtual reality Pokemon, a pure normal type. Porygon 3 has reached its pinnacle in advancement, looking like a bird Pokemon you could find out in the wild. And actually, the bird it's emulating is the Greater Roadrunner, a ground-dwelling bird capable of limited flight, hence it keeps its pure normal typing. This concept refers to Silicon Valley, the global center for technological innovation. Porygon 3's tail also looks like a Wi-Fi signal symbol. This acts as a reference to the fact that the internet was actually invented at the University of California, Los Angeles in 1969. Boulter Hall at UCLA was where the first message was sent over the ARPANET, the precursor to today's internet, to Stanford Research Institute. With such a tech-centric state, it only felt natural to include a proper Porygon 3 in this region. And from the tech side of things, we move on to the magical side of things with Alayan Palisand, the Magic Castle Pokemon, a Psychic ground type. Palisand in Alaya channels magical or mystical energy through their sandy bodies rather than spiritual. They build themselves by harnessing psychic energy through feeding off the minds of beachgoers, leaving them in a haze of astonishment. Upon being full size, they will channel their power through a stick found on the beach to perform magic tricks, which gathers a crowd that Palisand will use in turn to continue to feed off the crowd's energy, helping sell its tricks even further. The category of this Pokemon gives it away, but this Palisand is inspired by the world-famous Magic Castle, home to the Academy of Magical Arts, which is where many magicians perform and practice their craft. Palisand's use of magic tricks out on the beach is a reference to street magic, sleight-of-hand tricks that are meant to seem like magic with how they are accomplished. The shape of its head and area around its mouth is definitely meant to look like an old wizard a la Gandalf. With it having duller colored sand now, it could also be called Palisand the Grey, and the shape emulates the Magic Castle itself. Duh. Alaya and Palisand could definitely keep Sand Veil as a hidden ability, but for its main ability, I want to shift away from Water Compaction, and have this form be more of a special defender or attacker. Storm Drain works conceptually for this, even though the name doesn't exactly fit the design, though we could also make an equivalent ability for special defense called Sand Filtration, boosting the special defense of Palisand when hit by a Water-type move. Sand Filtration is a method of purifying water using small rocks, pebbles, and loose gravel to filter out contaminants. It could also learn a new Psychic-type move called Vanishing Act, which is ostensibly a Psychic-type version of Phantom Force, disappearing for a turn, then reappearing behind the enemy for a base 90 special attack. Last but not least, in Alaya, a brand new evolution to Scyther exists. So when given the Dark Thorn, it evolves into Pyrzor, the Spike Pokemon, a bug Dark type. The many spikes of this Pokemon and its dark typing are inspired by an extremely malevolent creature called the Haka Painizi, found within Kawaiisu folklore. Apologies for my pronunciation on those two things, I couldn't find any guides on the internet. Anyway, this creature is an ogre or spirit taking the shape of a large grasshopper holding two canes. Potential trigger warning here, but this creature would sing to children and talk sweetly to them, putting them in his basket when their guard is down and taking them back to his lair to eat, using its razor-sharp spines to do so. So I thought said spines and the canes could be combined to make rapier or cutlass-esque blades for Pyrzor to wield. It could also act as a reference to blades hidden within canes. The mix of the blade with its head shape refers to pirates. And I know what you're thinking. Brandon, there weren't any pirates in California. Well, actually, there was. Meet Hippolyte de Bouchard, California's only pirate. This guy has quite the roster of achievements. He circumnavigated the globe, signed the first Argentine international agreement with the King of Hawaii, Kamehameha I, freed slaves in Madagascar, helped initiate the War of Independence in Central America, and of course for our purposes here, attacked Spanish colonial interests in Monterey, California in 1818. So Pyrzor has this little tricorn-esque head shape to pay homage to that. Pyrzor will use their long, thorny appendages to stab their targets from behind without remorse. This Pokemon's speed mixed with these sharp weapons make it an assassin-like fighter, striking from the darkness. This Pokemon is an assassin bug, literally. So which regional form, fake, or evolution was your favorite? Let me know down below. And thank you so much to our incredible members who go that extra mile to support the channel, which you can also do by hitting that join button. Thank you so very much for watching, and I will see you all next time. What if there were legendary Pokemon based on Los Angeles, California? Well, let's explore what those might look like in my custom Pokemon region, Alaya. Hey everyone, Brandon here. Allow me to tell you a little story. There once was a rodent that stood before a raging river, looking to cross. It stood nervously, not knowing what to do. Just then, a large bear appeared from the tree line behind the rodent. "Move," grumbled the bear, as the rodent watched the lumbering grizzly ford the river, its large, strong frame making it look easy. As the bear disappeared into its cave set deep in the mountain, the rodent said to itself, "If only I were as strong as the bear, I could cross the river." After a little time had passed, a mighty bird flew into sight, high over the river, following its path, landing in a tree across the river from the rodent. This caused the rodent to hide in the forest, to avoid being the bird's next meal. The bird then disappeared into the clouds, bringing the rodent out of hiding. The rodent then said, "If only I had wings like the bird, I could fly across the river." Sometime later, the rodent's friend, the stag, showed up, looking to cross the river as well. "You haven't crossed the river yet? It's easy, watch," said the stag, which then gracefully leapt to a rock halfway through the river. At that point, the rodent said to itself, "If only I were as graceful as the stag, then I could leap across the river." But just then, when the stag leapt to try to cross the rest of the river, its hooves slipped, falling into the water and being carried away, disappearing into the raging current. A short while later, the stag appeared across the river, but instead of its normal brown color, it was a striking white. The rodent then realized it wasn't his friend anymore, but their ghost. The rodent took a moment, sitting back in the forest, looking at what lay across the river for it, and said, "There are bears, birds, and ghosts across that river. Why would I want to go there?" It then turned around and went home. This story is an old Alayan tale, showing the importance of learning from others' paths or mistakes, and to not compare yourself to others. It might just mean your end. It is also based on the 4 legendaries of the Alaya region, 2 of which being our box legends for Pokemon Lapis and Pokemon Garnet. So allow me to introduce Kalandor, the Over Pokemon, and Alwazli, the Under Pokemon. I worked with Fungusmon to create these 2 and the other legends in this video, so make sure to check out their link in the description. The color schemes of these Pokemon in relation to their logos is a lot more subtle than most legends, mainly residing in their eyes. But as they say, eyes are the window to the soul. And so let's show what's in their soul by explaining their origins, after you hit those like and subscribe buttons to see more content just like this. So let's begin with Condor, who is pure flying type. Its main inspiration comes from the California condor, an enormous New World vulture. Being the largest North American land bird, it became extinct in the wild in 1987 when all of the living wild population were put in captivity. But the population has since been rehabilitated and reintroduced in northern Arizona, southern Utah, the coastal mountains of California, and northern Baja California in Mexico. Condor also pulls a bit from the bald eagle, which felt fitting to add with it being a major symbol of the US and with the condor actually being bald. Condor's name comes from Calafia, a fictional queen of the island of California, first introduced in 1510 by Garcia Rodriguez de Montalvo in his epic novel, The Adventures of Esplandian. Calafia is the namesake of California, though this California is instead found off the coast of Asia. Calafia was described as a pagan warrior queen, who led an army of griffin-riding women into battle. Though the California of this novel is different than the one we know today, Calafia has been adopted as an icon of the state, becoming known as the Spirit of California, with a mural of her being able to be found at the state capitol building in Sacramento. This mural was actually a major basis in Condor's design, with the wings coming up to look like rays of sunlight peeking out from behind clouds. The inner white part of the condor's wings reminded me of little clouds in the vastness of the sky. The condor's impressive size and resilience, alongside the might of a griffin-riding pagan queen, made for a perfect basis for a legendary Pokemon. But the inspirations don't stop there. Condor, as the over Pokemon, represents the sky, and more specifically the realm above the sky, also known as the Heavens, Elysium, or the Good Place. Many different versions of a paradise after death exist across the world, and in its design, Condor definitely channels the realm of the Greek pantheon above Mount Olympus, but specifically the Disney incarnation from Hercules. Also, lapis lazuli roughly translates to the Stone of Heaven or the Stone of the Sky, with the blue and gold of the stone translating to the eyes and wings of Condor. Many modern depictions of vultures make them out to be antagonistic or outright villainous, but the California condor is just so majestic that I wanted to subvert expectation and make it a beacon of goodness. Plus, in many native cultures, vultures represent cleansing, healing, and rebirth, purifying the decay from the world due to their scavengerous nature. I know many are going to ask, well then why not make it part fairy type? Well, spoilers, both box legends are single-typed, and we haven't had a single-typed box legend since Xerneas, unless you count Zacian and Zamazenta in their unarmored forms. We also haven't seen two single-typed box legends since Kyogre and Groudon, so I wanted to buck the trend of the last few generations. On top of all that, one type can represent multiple things at once without needing another type. With that said, I do have a nod to that we will discuss later. Legends say that Condor was born in a nest made of clouds, and that it keeps those very clouds within its plumage as a reminder of where it came from. Condor resides atop Mount Arcadia on the west side of Alaya, where it watches over the entire region, cleansing the air of any impurities using its mighty, lustrous wings. This is an example of its signature move, Glistening Wing, a base 100 flying type special attack, which removes any hazards from the field and removes any status conditions from its allies. It would also have the new signature ability, Heavenly Body, which protects it from status conditions and slightly raises the power of fairy type moves. So there you go, we have a little fairy type affinity thrown in there to add to its Heavenly Light reference. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have a Owazlee, which is a pure rock type. This legend's main inspiration is the California grizzly or brown bear. This species of bear has long since gone extinct, with the last one being hunted down in August of 1922. Though there were some sightings reported in 1925, thereafter these grizzlies were never seen again in California. This golden gray-furred bear still endures as a symbol on the California flag. Not only does it remain a symbol of the state, it may actually be the basis of the name Yosemite, originating from the Awanichi word Usumati, which directly refers to the bear, though the Awanichi people referred to the Yosemite Valley as Awani, loosely translating to gaping mouth, and the mouth in question is thought to be the maw of a bear, which is where Owazlee gets part of its name. You can see Owazlee's mouth is wide open to reference this, while also being reminiscent of the caves bears are known to reside within, being at the base of the mountain atop its back. Speaking of, the Awanichi were a band of the Mino and Miwok people, and there is a Miwok tale about how the El Capitan summit was formed. There were two bear cubs that did not heed their mother's advice and wandered off, both falling asleep atop a boulder. As they slept, the rock began to grow and grow, eventually becoming an enormous mountain which they were now trapped atop of. So Owazlee is a combination of the mountain and the bears that were trapped atop it. Like Condor, Owazlee has a gold motif, but rather than representing the golden sunlight, These veins represent actual gold veins beneath the earth, and refer to the California Gold Rush, which led to the sudden and rapid growth of the state's population in the mid-1800s. The way the gold flows above its mountainous back also looks a bit like honey, which bears are notorious for enjoying. The combination of gold and the cave mouth of Awasley also works as a reference to the Cave of Wonders from Aladdin. And yes, that means both legends make reference to animated Disney movies from the 90s, which, as I've said before, Disney Animation Studios got its start in California. Most of Awasley's body being beneath the mountain on its back also makes reference to a mythological people known as Lemurians, who are said to live underneath Mount Shasta, in a hidden city known as Telos, which was said to be a city of light and opulence, with furred floors and jeweled walls, with the Lemurians walking its surface in white robes, hence the white and gold coloration on Awasley, which looks like the snow-capped peak of Mount Shasta. I realize this combo of bear plus white definitely gives off polar bear vibes, but you can just think of it as a similar situation to Hisuian Avalugg, who refers to the melting polar ice caps. So naturally, with Kalandor representing the sky and heavens, Awasley represents caves and the underworld, also known as Hades, Hell, or the Bad Place. The afterlife has many eternal suffering-based depictions, so this Pokemon represents those, while still having a touch of purity thanks to its Lemurian inspiration. As such, its main ability would be called Undercoat. You like that double entendre? Anyway, it works basically the same as Heavenly Body, where it is protected against status conditions and slightly raises the power of Dark-type moves. It would definitely gain access to moves like Bite and Crunch with that gaping mouth it has, so this ability would help those do more damage. And I'm gonna hit you with another double entendre, as its signature move would be called Ender Bite, with an Ender Bite being a form of igneous rock essentially consisting of quartz. This move would basically be a more powerful rock-type combination of Crunch and Jaw Lock. A base 100 physical attack where the target would have a chance to flinch and would be prevented from switching out or fleeing a battle. Awasley resides in the Abaddon Cave on the east side of Alaya, where it seeks out impurities within the earth and consumes them, absorbing and purifying them within its body. You can actually see this process happening within the gold veins across Awasley's body. As you can probably surmise, these two have a theme of pollution within their dex entries. Most major cities have the issue of pollution of the land and air within and around it, so I thought making legends that prevented Alaya from becoming like real-life major cities would be an interesting route to take. And I would love it if you took a route down to that join button to become a member. You get amazing benefits like videos early, all the while helping me pay the artists I work with for these videos. So go ahead and hit that join button now. But that still leaves two animals from the story we have yet to talk about. So allow me to introduce Fantlier, the supernatural Pokemon, a pure ghost type. This legend's main inspiration is the California cryptid known as the Ghost Deer, though that's a bit of a misnomer as it's actually described to be a large white elk. It supposedly resides on Mount Eddy in Northern California. Hunters who have witnessed the cryptid reported that their bullets passed right through the animal when they shot at it, with the ghost deer disappearing into the forest afterward. The likely explanation is the hunters encountered an elk with albinism and weren't as good of a shot as they thought. But who knows, maybe it was a ghost? So with Kalandor and Awasley representing different directions of the afterlife, over or under, Fantlier with its ghost typing and cryptid basis represents the supernatural or spirit realms, the limbo between life and the afterlife that spirits reside between. The wisps around Fantlier's ankles are meant to look like rope, like how a deer might become trapped, showing how this Pokemon's spirit is still bound to this realm rather than moving on to the next. The golden antlers of Fantlier, while falling in line with the gold of the other legends, refers to a legendary deer or goat from Sylvanian folklore known as Goldhorn, which, just like the ghost deer, is white and lives atop a mountain. But the main difference is that Goldhorn has its shimmering golden horns that were highly sought after, as they were the key to finding the treasure hidden within the mountains around its home, Mount Triglav. As such, Fantlier is known to traverse the mountains across Alaya at night, residing at different parts depending on which day it is. It is said to carry potent spiritual energy with it, such that many ghost-type Pokemon will flock to its location, acting as a barrier from those who seek to exploit Fantlier's power. This spiritual energy is actually its ability, Ghostly Surge, creating a new type of terrain, Ghostly Terrain, that increases the power of Ghost-type moves by 30% and increases the likelihood that a move will cause flinch. This would work in tandem with its signature move, Haunted Horn, which is a base 80 special attack that can both go through shields and has a 20% chance to flinch the target. Fantlier would also learn other horn-based moves like Horn Leech and Mega Horn, given those are a major part of its design. So last but not least, we have the rodent of the tale, which is none other than Squirrel, the natural Pokemon, a pure normal type. Of course, with Fantlier representing the supernatural world, Squirrel represents the natural world, or the realm of the living, aka the real world. There is no afterlife without first having life, which is the center point between the heavens and the hells, the middle between the over and under. So Squirrel acts as the bridge between these realms, with its gold-adorned tail reflecting a bridge, which itself is a reference to the world-famous Golden Gate Bridge of San Francisco. There are multiple myths across the world of squirrels being guides or messengers between realms, such as the famous Ratatoskr who climbs up and down the world tree Yggdrasil, and black squirrels in both Celtic and indigenous folklore were associated with the otherworld. Also in the Ramayana, a squirrel helps Lord Rama across a vast ocean, playing a significant role in the building of the bridge to Lanka, after which Rama blesses it with 3 white stripes down its back, which can be seen in the glowing golden white stripes along Squirrel's tail. As such, this Pokemon traverses across Alaya's plains and forests, maintaining the natural order of the Pokemon world. The seed in its hands, while also acting as a reference to Yggdrasil, is the basis for its signature move, Realm Seed, a normal type physical attack that does one of 5 types of damage: Electric, Fairy, Grass, Psychic, and Ghost. The types of the terrains, including the new one Fantlier just introduced. The move will pick the type based on what will do the most damage. Kind of like if Flying Press was a 5-type move instead of 2. I thought the idea of a move that channeled the power of terrains to represent different realms of existence was incredibly fitting given Squirrel's inspirations. Though, inversely, Squirrel's new ability, Reality Check, makes it so terrain effects cannot be active while it's on the field, canceling out the surge abilities. If Squirrel leaves the battlefield, whether by switching out or fainting, at that time the surge abilities will activate. Squirrel, while being based on messengers between realms, is the natural Pokemon, so keeping the terrain from being changed made the most sense. I mean, I could have made a normal terrain, I suppose, but the most normal thing is for there to be no terrain. So how did these legends appear in Pokemon Lapis and Garnet? Well, obviously, Kalandor is a Lapis exclusive, and Awazli is a Garnet exclusive. And actually, where you begin the game is different depending on the version. In Lapis, you start east and head west towards Kalandor's domain, and in Garnet, you start west and move east towards Awazli's domain. But what about Fantlier and Squirrel? Well, those would be available in both games and act like roaming Pokemon. But since this is more of a modern Pokemon game, you wouldn't have to worry about random encounters, and would actually be able to see if they're around. They would venture around certain locations depending on which day of the week it is. But that means these little legends form trios in and of themselves. With Kalandor, Fantlier and Squirrel form a reference to Norse mythology, with Kalandor acting as Reisvelger, the eagle-shaped Jotun, Fantlier acting as the 4 stags of Yggdrasil that feast upon its branches, and Squirrel obviously acting as Ratatoskr as I mentioned before. I know that the Gen 6 box legends are based on these specific Norse creatures, but these group themes aren't meant to be the main inspirations and are more like a fun little nod. With that being said, with Awazli, Fantlier and Squirrel act as a reference to a story from the Cree people called The Deer and the Squirrel, where a reindeer is in charge of naming all the animals. When it asks what the squirrel wants to be called, the squirrel says it wants to have a name like the bear. The deer then tells the squirrel it's too small to have a name like the bear. This makes the squirrel so sad that it cries until its eyelids become white, which you'll now notice that Squirrel's eyelids are white to reference this. Also, the box legends are represented by carnivores, with them consuming pollution in one way or another, and the other 2 represent herbivores, changing or maintaining the landscape around them. Which legendary of the Alaya region was your favorite? Let me know. And with that, we're done with the Alaya region for now. But don't worry, another new region will be there to replace it next month, and it's going to be a fun one. A huge thank you to our amazing members who go that extra mile to support the channel, which you can also do by hitting that join button. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.